Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you. For the people who don't know me, my name is Fadia, as you can see from Gioia Life Coaching. And I am doing something very special. I mean, for me, it's just the first time that I do interview someone. And I would like to introduce you my first guest, which is Colin Parson. But before I give him the microphone, I just want to tell you that this guy last year he interviewed me for my first live, and I can tell you that was a big stretch for me, and probably a few people can feel the same because I'm not the one that like to talk in public. But Colin has this superpower to help us to feel comfortable and not having the impression that we just have, like a live conversation. Then that's why I wanted to just take this opportunity to give the microphone to the one that is so generously hosting so many people and to know who is this human being behind the microphone. Then, Colin, I give you the microphone for you to introduce yourself.
Okay, thanks. Fadila, you made me quite emotional just even saying that, and it's a very strange place to be when someone's turning the microphone on you, and the way that you express things makes me emotional. And it's quite rare to make me cry, but I felt like doing it. So there's something very special about you, Fadila, to do that and make me feel very special as well. So yeah, thank you very much. Like I said, any questions you want to ask me, anything that you want to know. Yeah, it's strange because I'm always very curious about other people. I love to ask questions. I've never really considered myself very interesting. I really, I'm very grateful for your words. I think they're super kind, and they land very nicely with me. But yeah. I don't know. You fire away if there's so I don't know really what to tell people about myself. If there's questions that you want to jump off, I can expand on it. Is there where would you like me to start?
First of all, I know a little bit about your story. What brought you to just being the owner of Point Conversation? But that would be interesting to know that because, when we don't know you, we can believe that you have done your whole life. But I would like to know where first you come from
Yeah.
and just to give people a little bit background, because I am sure that even the people that you interview so far, they don't know that much about your story. And then what was the turning point?
Yeah. So you might have to stop me because there's not much to the story, but I can ramble on for quite some time. So if it's something that's you want to go in a different direction, please stop me. But so I'm from England, from the UK. I live in Luxembourg, and obviously you and I have met now. We've become friends, so which is great. I'm very grateful for that. I moved here just under 11 years ago. Um, Basically, my background is in banking and finance. So I worked in London for a long time. I would say 20 years. I kind of don't really think about years anymore. Just I don't even think about decades. I just think, okay, that's how things were before. Started my career out in basically in banking, and then when I moved over here, I jumped into banking again. The move to Luxembourg was a big deal for me. I was born and raised in a town called Brentwood in Essex. It's just outside of London, about 45 minutes. And I thought I was going to grow up there. I was going to meet someone, 10 meters away from me. And we'd marry, etc., and then have kids, and that was it. And I wasn't expecting much more from my life. But I met someone through work who came from Germany and who worked in Luxembourg, and our relationship grew. And she lived with me for a while, and then we came to Luxembourg, and I came, and that was a huge. turning point for me, because I left all my family, my friends, my routine. I was always someone that liked my security in many ways. I found security and routine and doing things, and I didn't have a wide circle of friends. I just quite liked, this routine. I like to keep fit and healthy. I love my family dearly. And so then when I moved to Luxembourg, started a new job, didn't know anyone, didn't speak the language or languages, because as we all know, there's many languages in Luxembourg. Felt very out of my depth. Went to therapy because of that, because basically I started a job that wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but I felt triggered quite a lot. And at the time, my partner, she said, "Oh, you're being quite aggressive, not physically, but just sort of the way that I was speaking about it. It was a lot of frustration in things." And so I ended up going into therapy, which at the time was okay. I knew something wasn't quite right. I knew I felt very sensitive about my surroundings and everything. And I was like, yeah, okay, if someone can help me. And that kind of got me on a track of understanding myself, understanding me, who I am, triggers, like the identity of myself, the version of myself, who was I? And, it didn't bring all the answers, but it opened up a world of self-discovery. And I loved that. And I found it very curious. At first I was a bit, from my parents' generation, it was a bit, if you go to therapy, it's like that you can't handle the world, because therapy wasn't really, there was a thing, but if you did, then, you were looked on that you couldn't handle the world. And but the therapist said to me at the time, no, it's actually very brave and courageous. Most people don't look at themselves. And ever since then, I've been a big advocate of therapy. I thought it was the most amazing thing to do. Sorry, one sec. Excuse me. And so that was kind of matched along with my working life, the therapy. And then I was working in projects for sort of the banking finance world, fell into consultancy. You can dig into any of that if you want to. But ultimately, I was working in projects. Then after my second child, I didn't want to go into projects anymore. I felt it was the same thing over and over again. And I wanted to do something different. I thought I was going to leave the consultancy company that I was working at. But my wife at the time, she said, "Why don't you ask and see if there was something else you could do for the company?" So I floated the idea of actually looking after the consultants, and basically just to check in that they were okay, not find them assignments or missions or anything, but just check in and see how they were. And that basically meant that I had flexibility over my time, freedom, flexibility. There was a lot of autonomy in that role, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, because I come from a world where, in banking, you need to be there from 9 to 5. I know it's different hours in different countries and stuff, and everyone tells you what rules to follow, etc. And I found that, life doesn't fit that way. We try to force our lives to fit. And my interest was in people and understanding what was going on with people. And that later, basically, I was given the title of Chief Happiness Officer. And that was a blessing and a curse, because people didn't know what it was. It's a very Americanized term, not very popular in Europe just yet. Quite misunderstood. People thought that I was either handing out drugs or I was handing out stress toys. And but for me, it was about people. And I always saw myself almost outside of the company. I didn't sit under HR. I didn't sit under management. I didn't do the day-to-day stuff. But what I did do was have great conversations with people. And it wasn't that I had all the advice. I didn't have that. I was interested in people. And I realized that, people want to talk. And somehow I was able to create a safe space for people to talk and to share. And there was no trickery in that. It was just genuine. Okay, I want to form a connection, and I seemed to do it quite well. And people liked what I did. Sometimes it was just talking. It was at the beginning, I started to think, okay, I'd go in with an agenda. There was maybe, wanted to see that if there was a problem with someone, okay, try and get to what that problem was. Then I realized if I ever showed up with an agenda, I wasn't really listening to the people in front of me. And so I just changed that and I just showed up.
Then,
And
excuse
sorry,
me, then
yeah,
this is a part that I didn't know. You mean you were already, before the Vantage Point, you were
yeah,
already in the consulting company
yeah.
doing taking care of people and etc. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I did it for a couple of years. I don't know, 2 years maybe. But yeah, it was under this sort of chief happiness officer, and it's so yeah, it's one of those things that gets a bit, you know, misunderstood, and people have different perspectives of what that role should and shouldn't be. But yeah, it's basically where I started to realize that I could have these conversations with people,
Okay.
especially in other languages. So I only speak English, and luckily a lot of people in Luxembourg speak English. Um, and yeah, I started to realize that that wasn't even a barrier. That was, that's fine. People might struggle not having all the words in English, as opposed to their mother tongue. But I think I'd created enough safe space for people just to express stuff. And I started to see that wasn't just with one or two, there was quite a few people that I was having that with. And I felt very lucky and fortunate. Um, but the company I worked for was evolving, and they were predominantly a consultancy company. And we tried to sort of see if the chief happiness officer could be something that we could actually do as a consultancy service, and I could go into companies. But again, I don't think many companies are that interested, and it kind of falls under this well-being banner, and well-being is a nice to have or a tick the box, like diversity and inclusion, etc. And it's generally the first thing that goes, when finances become a bit tough. And so yeah, basically, the company wanted me to go back to being a consultant in projects, and it didn't feel right. And for the first time in my life, I felt a bit of an internal struggle. So they wanted me to interview for a job back in the banking sector. And I felt really strange inside, and it was very odd. So I didn't feel right for about a week. I did the interview, and I didn't get it. And the feedback from the interview was, "Oh yeah, he clearly doesn't want the job." And I was like, "Okay." and and I realised I was quite inquisitive why I felt that way. And I realized that I wanted to go in a different direction, and the values that I had weren't aligned with the company. And that's okay. That's really okay. But ultimately, that led to me being let go by the company. They needed to do consultancy work and finance, and that wasn't really something I wanted to do. So yeah, they let me go, and that was nearly 2 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we just now, because there is so many things that you said, and I think we will just first summarize,
Hmm.
and then after you will explain us the turning point. But that's so rich. To be honest, I thought I knew so many things about you, but to be honest, what I do see probably that's as we call it in French, déformation professionnelle. I only see through the lenses of the growth identity, and I am really seeing clearly that you went through so many transition, and as we know, transition are as well losses. You're losing the sense of self. I mean, even if probably the sense of self was not aligned with the aspiration or what you wanted to do, it's still something that we are building our sense of identity around some behavior and things that are very unconscious and automatic. then I see that you went through already like leaving your country and moving into a new company and not knowing French. I mean, that's quite a lot of things at the same time, and I love that by the end. Um, you were not, because usually we see there is like a big shock in life, and then people get the awareness that they don't want the life that they used to have, and then they make quite a radical change. But for you, it looks like it was quite smoothly, if I can say. Of course, there were some big shock, if I can call them like this. But it looks like you were gradually taking them, opening up, doing the therapy, which for me, as a man, and talking, so openly about that is very brave. And then by the end, you were ready before being ready. I mean, before waiting for being led or whatever. Do you realize that?
I think you're giving me too much credit, to be honest, because like when you said like smooth, there was nothing smooth about my journey. I think time has made me explain that in an easier way. But the reality was, it was very painful for me, painful to be away from the UK. I desperately wanted to be back. I miss my friends and family, and therapy helped me. I have to say, my girlfriend, who became my wife, we're no longer together. We're divorced. But she supported. She made my transition into the country a lot easier. Sometimes for good reasons. Sometimes I think longer term it probably didn't help me because I didn't appreciate everything. I know it was done in good intentions, but sometimes when everything's done for you so easily, you kind of miss the foundations of things. So yeah, but yeah, it's strange when you say smoothly, because it has never felt smooth in my brain. It's felt. Sometimes I thought I was going to go crazy. I thought like I don't know if I'm a born overthinker. I don't know if we are that, but my brain would overthink everything. I would have a lot of emotions when I go back to the UK, and then I would come back to Luxembourg. Say I was going for a weekend or whatever. I very much struggle coming back and missing my family, and that that happened for a long time, but it got easier and easier and easier over time, to the point where because I always thought within the first year, I'm going to go back to the UK, I'm going to go back, and it was my body's way of sort of reacting to things. And I had this all or nothing thinking, this way of doing things, which sometimes I think I've mastered that. And then the other day something happened, and I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and I was like, absolutely, I'm still doing that behavior. Anyway, but after about a year, so what I found, the way to trick my brain is that I thought that, this is going to be my life. I'm going to be in Luxembourg for the rest of my life. I won't see my family. So there's all this panic and stuff. Then what I started to do was just go, well, just do this week, do a month and see how you go. And that seemed to ease my way into things. It was, I became more comfortable, and 1 month turns into 2 months, 2 months, 3 months. Oh, now we're at 6 months. Oh, now we're at a year. And it was a way to, I think my nervous system was having an absolute meltdown for the first year.
More looks like being in prison, like
Yeah, yeah. And,
1 month, 2 months.
yeah, no, but it was, and it was very strange.
Yeah.
But I think that's just the way that I am. I think if I think too longer term, or I feel that I have to give up my whole life for a thing, it just seems too grand in my mind. So I have to kind of start smaller and build, and almost like, I want to say like a snail in its shell, just popping its head out a little bit just to make sure it's safe. I think maybe that's the best way to describe that. Yeah.
Which is,
How
by the end, it's a great strategy. That's because I know, by having, I mean, studying what it means to grow an identity. There is, of course, the environment that is sometimes changing faster than our nervous system and the inner structure that we have, and it's not easy to deal with that because we're not aware of that. But the way you are finding, I mean, through this strategy, I think it's a way to make it more manageable, because I see that the nervous system is, when we are in transition, and especially one after one, it's is not like an elastic. But by probably through your strategy, it looks like it was making you being able to create a little bit of elasticity in this time where there was so much tension. I think it's very smart. That's, I
Yeah.
mean,
Uh,
that's
I, Again, I think you're giving me too much credit because
no, but
if it didn't feel like a smart thing, it just felt like a way to survive, if I'm honest. Um,
yes.
and I found that it worked for me, and yeah, it was through necessity more than anything else. So, but yeah, it's strange because I never thought that of that as a we always think about strategy, setting these big goals, setting the vision and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I couldn't. It was just too much in my body and in my brain. And so yeah, my little snail at the beginning was like, okay, am I safe today? So yeah, but to be honest, I hadn't really thought about it, but I think that's maybe why the reason this business and what I'm doing now, it didn't start with any great vision. It was I'm going to start the smallest I can, because I've tried to start businesses before, and everyone sells you the dream, like yeah, get rich, get clients, get money, earn this money, get freedom, everything. I signed up for them all. Like, I really did. I've paid a lot of money for courses, done the work. But in all of that, I realized that we're all different. We all have a different way how we're going to process that information, what that does to us psychologically, whether we've got some baggage or some trauma, or it's just not how we operate. And I realize that we're all different, and we just need to find the way that works for us, that keeps us moving forward, gets us to what we would like to be. Because I think we often we are standing still isn't the right thing. It might be comfortable for a moment, but we should really try and move forward as much as we can to grow and to learn and to evolve and everything like that. And I think sometimes I've just tried to, sort of shoot to the moon without, even putting on an outfit, So yeah, it works for me. Yeah, no, I'd never made that question, that link until you mentioned it, and we'd had this conversation. So, yeah, it's quite appropriate. Yeah, so it's a good reflection.
But you see, when I was saying smoothly, that's not like I was describing that, the journey was as smooth as, it could be. Of course, we're talking about transition, then it means grieving, loss, and etc. But what I see in you is this kind of, it, you were intuitively building something without even knowing where you were going. You see, that's what struck me now when you describe about already having this position when you were working for the consultancy company. You were already, like preparing what you are currently doing, and it's just interesting. Of course, it's always easier to see it, when we look on returning to the past and look behind us. But I see that, when personally, I know as well that when we are going through so many different changes into our life, it's quite difficult to find like a sense of direction, and like thinking even to develop ourselves. And I see that you were not waiting to be really at a stage where you didn't know what to do, or you were led by the company to start working on yourself, and it shows that probably you didn't have, of course, the awareness that you have, but it brought you where you are today. You
Yeah.
built something already before. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, it's strange how, like, I think your point about we don't really see these things in the moment. You know, we have like hindsight and we look back and you can connect the dots and you go, oh, and I think at the point, you know, when these events are happening, they look like a failure or things aren't going quite right. But oftentimes, and I've just come to realize this, that they're actually they're all the building blocks to the path that you're supposed to be on. And I didn't realize that until recently, and I was like, okay, because all these courses that I've done, the jobs that I've done, the experience that I've had, um, the exposure to certain things that didn't work out, and I was like, oh, and now they seem, you go, oh, like they're almost like different worlds, and you go, oh, okay, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. So people have started to watch my lives, and I yeah, it's strange to, you know, when people reflect back and they say they like them and they can see what I do and how I do it, and I'm able to, because I enter into some conversations knowing a little bit about the subject, but I also enter into conversations that I know nothing about, and but I just bring my curiosity and I ask questions, and I quite like, well, I like learning from other people. And I think because I've learned about myself, and I think that's a lifetime journey. You don't just understand yourself. If you do, then amazing. But I think we're always evolving, things are revealing themselves. And so it makes me very interested in other people, not just what they do, but why they do it. I think that's a really good question. And I think some people don't know why they do something. They're not that aware. But I've often said that awareness is superpower. See what's actually going on, what your mind's saying, what you're doing, what you're thinking about, why these things are coming to you, and everything like that. And just be curious. Don't try to overthink it. And so all these things, like you said, seem to have, I don't know, come together. And what I'm doing now feels amazing. Like we've talked many times, but this doesn't feel like a job. I feel sometimes feel a bit not silly, because I'm very grateful for what I do. I honestly, it it's so easy for me to do that it doesn't feel like a job. It's just so pleasurable. I get to talk to people. I get to meet people like you. You know, we formed a friendship. You know, we live in the same country. We wouldn't. I don't even know that we would have come across each other, to be honest. And then we did, and then we've even had lunch, and you know, we're growing a friendship from that. And I'm doing the same thing with people around the world, and I'm like, I feel so blessed, so grateful, and the fact that I'm enjoying all of it just seems like crazy to me. It's just that okay, but um, yeah, I think, you know, just to really come back on your point, I think there are these things that I've been building for a long time, and in the moments they felt scary or they were frustrating because they didn't work out the way that I'd planned for my big vision of myself. You know, to earn €1 million a month and retire on some beach, and 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 now it all seems to be working really well, and it's very odd for me to be in that place. I'm so grateful, but it's very strange. And it started from a place of intuition. So I can't even remember if I told you this, but so I, because I was unemployed, I was trying to
Yeah.
be a consultant. Like I thought, so I created my own company's Vantage Point
Wait,
Consultancy.
wait. Then you were led by the consultancy, and then from there you had the idea to create your own company, right?
No, no. So yeah,
No.
so I was let go from the consultancy company, and I fell under the chômage, so the unemployment of Luxembourg, which is very great. Anyone who's in Luxembourg, it's amazing. Very from a financial standpoint, amazing. So what happened was, as part of that, you can go in and you can go and be part of. They'll help you try and find new jobs. There's like a job board and stuff like that. But they also said, well, you might also be interested in creating your own company. Now, I think that's an amazing thing. And I've tried to create my own business as well. I wanted to step away from the corporate world for a long time. I didn't feel that I fitted in, or it felt like some resistance. And so I thought, oh yes, this will be the thing. So then they ask you to, come up with a business idea and put a plan together. And so I thought, what was my strength? And I thought I was going to help leaders connect with their people, because I've been in so many companies where you have a hierarchy in a company and leaders don't understand their people and the people don't understand the leaders. It's almost like they don't speak the same language. And I thought that was going to be a great idea, and I was going to charge some ridiculous day rate as a consultant. I was going to solve everyone's problems. Everyone was going to be happy. The reality was either the way that I was selling it, or I don't know. I don't think it's really something that leaders are that interested in. They don't, lead. So I have to be a bit careful, but I have some stigma around corporates and hierarchy and etc. And I know there is an emergence of new companies, people thinking in a different way, but most companies have these structures, and they see it in very old ways, and I see it in very new and different ways of working. And I don't think those old ways have caught up with the new ways. Technology might be there, but the legacy way that we see people, we see people as resources, and it is not up to date. And so no one seems to be interested in changing the way, and ultimately you're trying to change the culture of a company by talking to leaders and saying, look, you need to rethink this. And that's very difficult, especially in companies that have existed for a long time. They don't want to put money in that, in a consultant to try and help them. It's almost, it just doesn't seem a focus of companies and corporates at the moment, certainly the ones that I've ever been involved in. And so, that never got off the ground.
Then how long did you try?
About a week. No.
No.
So what happened was, as part of that, you go into this program in the unemployment of helping you build a business. They don't really help you that much. They give you some understanding of what you need to fill, but you have to go at their pace. You can't outpace it. You can't go faster, because then you lose the unemployment benefits, which is a bit strange. So, but at the end of it, you've basically been in 6 months of this thing. You've created your company, you've set it up, and there's loads of admin, which I really dislike. I struggle with admin. And then basically, you're on your way. There's no other help. There's a few institutions around. There's a few companies, a house of entrepreneurship, etc. And these things are great, but they're not always set up best to support you. And we're all different in the way that we want to start a business. So I knew I wanted to try and get this off the ground, this consultancy company. And I was like, oh, well, I need to show that I'm doing something well. How do I start to market myself? And I don't know why. I think some synchronicities happen in our lives just when you need them. And so at the same time, I was seeing this life career coach. And I always say that, and I don't actually know what her title was. She was just someone that came into my life just slightly before I was being let go of the consultancy company. She really helped me understand who I was. And we did this personality test towards the end. And I started to realize who I was. I've always seen myself as very average, didn't stand out in any shape or form. I was always good. I was always the good boy. I was always the good son, the good brother, the good employee. I would always be very diligent, and people could rely on me a lot. But I was never the shining star, and I kind of wanted to be, and I always looked up to those people that seemed to just be doing really well. And I was like, oh, And I never felt that way, but there was something inside that always wanted to. And I used to live in a fantasy world where I could just, take that thing, and like one day someone was going to come to me and go, "Yeah, Colin, you're the one. You're the one that you're meant for more." And so I tried to create that for myself, and that never happened. And
I love your honesty.
yeah, well, it is what it is, and I think it probably happens to other people, or
Yeah.
people will let me know. But if it doesn't, then that's okay. But I don't know where I was going with that. And yeah, so I was doing that, and she kind of highlighted a lot of skills that I had, and it's very interesting. If anyone ever wants to do it, I definitely recommend if people want to do it. Obviously, there's a charge for doing it, but she was amazing, and it was a personality test, not like the Briggs Myers or the 16 personalities, whatever. It's much more fundamental and deeper than that. And it basically was like 9 segments, and it told you your top 3 strengths, your middle strengths or skills, excuse me, and your bottom 3. Now, what I found very interesting about this, the top one that I had was communication. There was the other one was logic, and the other one was building. And I was like, okay. But for most of my life, I've looked up to, like, I've watched loads of YouTube videos of people, entrepreneurs smashing it, making loads of money. And I would always use that as a way to go, why aren't I doing it? Why am I not doing it? And she showed me that the top 3 skills that I had aren't what the money one wasn't part of this. It was communication. And I got frustrated because I wanted money, and especially being unemployed, I was like, I need money. Why can't I do this? But actually, chasing money is a distraction for me. It's not the thing that I should be doing. It's very interesting. It can energize me, but it's not a skill that I need. I can do it, but if I lean into it, it's a waste of my energy. I'm much more productive if I focus on communication. Anyway, and there's also the 3 that basically are energy drainers. And this was really important for me because you realize being around certain people, certain types, or certain things really drain your energy. So it's really hard for you to do. Again, you can do these things, and it's really strange. If you think about like this grid of like 9 personalities, if you increase one, then the others lift up slightly. So if I increase my communication, the money one sitting underneath would raise up. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, I was doing that. And then at the same time, this marketing course came up. And this there was a gentleman, Alessandro. I don't know if he's listening. I did invite him. He was helping people be a bit more visible. And he showed me a few things. I was on his course. And one of the things was about going live once a week and sort of sharing your product or service. Go live the same time every week. Maybe have a guest on and interview them, especially if they do something that you don't quite do or you think it would be useful for people. But the whole point was to get your product and service out there. People would see you, be visible, and they say know, like, and trust. And so
Wow.
I tried to do that, but for the consultancy stuff, and that just
Okay.
didn't work. So yeah.
Okay. And then did you do some live? Then still you tried at that
No,
time
so
when no?
well, what happened was I was going to do a live. So actually, what I started doing these very short clips to YouTube, to LinkedIn, and to YouTube, and 2-minute videos just about my thoughts on how things work and what I thought was maybe some of the challenges and stuff like that. And that was okay. But then I started editing them, and I'd record myself like 30 times and go, oh no, I look terrible in this, oh, my beard's a bit off or whatever. And I was quite self-conscious. I posted them though. And it was a way, because I'd spent all of my life being tied to corporate. There's this like weird sense that you're owned by that company, and they kind of control you. And so stepping out into the world where it's your company, people go, yeah, you're free to say whatever you want. But there's still this voice in the back of your head going, don't piss off corporate because they might be your client one day. And you go, yeah, I don't know. And so you feel very, it takes you a long time to you think you're being the bravest you've ever said, but you just go, oh, I think maybe corporate doesn't have it quite right. And then you go, oh, no, what you actually want to say is, no, I don't believe that the way the corporate system is right. And it takes a long time for those things to come out. So I was doing those little videos. I think I was doing one a week. And so then that was just me solo talking to the screen, and it's okay, but it's quite hard to do that. I found it, I can do it. I quite liked it. I didn't have a problem being on camera. I thought it was fun, enjoyable. And I had a ton of insecurities as a kid, what I looked like. I sounded like a squeaky mouse. People have said that my voice was a bit monotone. I've been told, I've even been held back from companies getting in appraisals and getting a bonus because they said my voice was too monotone. So they gave me a lesser grade and a less of a bonus that year. And so everything I thought conspired against me, the way that I spoke, people didn't really appreciate it. I didn't think I would ever be on camera. I just thought, okay. But then coming to Luxembourg was actually a bit of a shift, because people, especially if their mother tongue is not English, they quite like the way that I talk because it's a bit slower, a bit more measured. It's not too fast. And so I
I
found
agree.
people have said it's easier to understand me. And so I realized it's more about your audience and what they like. But I'd had this version or this identity of myself I'm 47 now, and let's say I've carried that version of me for so many years, and I didn't know that I would be good on camera. But there was something in me says, no, you're good on camera, you're okay. And it's not like I want to be on stage, I don't want to be famous. And I think this is sometimes where we get we misunderstand, because when I've said this before, I think the easy assumption is, oh, Colin is vain or he likes to be show off. I am not an extrovert, really, really not. And me personally, I'm not that type of person. And so we associate being on camera or being able to talk as an extroverted person. And there's loads of labels and things that I don't necessarily agree with. But actually being on camera doesn't really bother me. I've kind of grown into my looks. I kind of put the beard on so it covers my face up and stuff like that. And I'm okay. And I make fun of myself. I went through so much as a teenager, disliking the way that I looked. I had spots, everything. I've kind of dealt with all of that when I was younger. So now I'm kind of okay with where I am. I don't think I'm the most good looking person. I'm just comfortable with who I am. I look after my body. I work out. I'm not in the fittest shape. I'm just pleased with where I am. And that allows me to show up without those insecurities of really being on camera and just being able to talk.
Yeah,
So,
and I want just to take the opportunity to just say that by the end, what makes us feel safe in the conversation with you, it has nothing to do with what we could see outside. It's really your energy, and because that's something that I share already with you and into our first live. I'm not a person that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels very secure, let's say, when I'm doing just being on camera. But you have this ability, and again, you can work on whatever you want outside. It's not what makes us really feel safe. You have this energy, this authenticity, and then the way you are present with us makes the conversation very safe. And I don't know if you realize that, because by the end, we discovered that behind what you were doing, they were a kind of preparation, even though you were not aware about that. But what I want to highlight is already, when you were working for the consultant, I won't ever be able to say this word, the consultancy company, you had already probably the calling to be with people. You had the curiosity. Then that's, of course, something that was always inside of you. But of course, it took you probably all this transition to remove all the layers that could help you to connect with that. And what is so interesting is now you are organizing twice a week, even 3 times a
3
week.
times, yeah.
Yeah. Then from someone that was just by the end trying to create a business, you had now you creating the context for you to use what you were called by, and using this curiosity, using this authenticity, using this superpower to make the guest feel safe. And then from there, you are creating a brand. You're creating without really knowing by the end where it's going to bring you. And that's so interesting. It's quite something that we are not used to see in our society. You kind of pioneer to show that you can move even though you don't have any certainty, even though you don't have clarity, but still you are able to feel the energy of your calling. Do you see that? Or maybe
Yeah.
I'm not asking a proper question. I'm just trying to
No, no, no,
summarize.
no. I really get it, and yeah, I've never been called a pioneer in my life, so thank you. I'll take that. Yeah, it's very strange. I didn't know. I kind of just lent into something that I felt comfortable with, and in the beginning, I had no idea that it would work. But so there was no master plan. There was no so. um, for context, so I was doing this personality test, and I was doing this marketing for this consultancy company. Like that's what I thought I was this to help leaders connect with their people. And I came. So within this group, there was a young girl, Italian girl called Stefania. I don't know if she's watching, but basically, I attribute her to me starting all of this. And she was a bit nervous because she's from Italy. She lives in London. And I think she was a bit nervous about doing a live. And I said to her, "Look, I'll do a live with you. Like, no worries. It's like," and because I think when people are nervous of being about on camera, that's okay. And I just felt it doesn't bother me that much. Let's do it. It can be fun. And so we did it. And the strange thing was that she came with this idea that she was going to talk about her business because she was starting her own business. And I think thought she was going to talk about her business, but we actually ended up talking more about her. And we often forget the people because we think that's what people are interested in is the business. Excuse me. And but it's not. People are interested in people. And I just gave I think it lasted half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. And I think she was shocked about it. I think she was like, "Oh, that was easy. It went quick," and stuff like that. And so from that, I was in this really frustrated place. There was no moment when I go, "Yes, this is absolutely the calling I want to do." So I was with my girlfriend. We go for a walk. There's some nice fields here. And I was so frustrated for so many weeks, maybe a couple of months, 8 weeks, 9 weeks. And I wanted someone to give me an answer. I even considered going to like like we call them mediums, like I don't know, someone that can tell you what the future is going to be. I just wanted someone to give me an answer because I've never been one of those. Whenever I've seemed to have wanted to take control of my life and said, "Yes, I'm going to go for that job. That's going to be that type of career for me," it never worked out, and it's always been very frustrating to me because I've been around a lot of people that go, "Yeah, I'm going to go that direction," and everything seems to work for them. And then when I tried to do it, I always felt an internal resistance, and it was just and then nothing worked out. And I'm like, does it work for them and not me? And so I was in this place where I was absolutely lost. I work in this apartment. I've got 2 kids that I co-parent. I wasn't going out. I tried to keep myself fit and healthy. no, oh no, I was trying to outsource the answer to my life to other people. Could you just tell me what I'm going to be like? Because I needed something. I couldn't hold on to anything. And it was so irritating. And then so I was frustrated. I went for a walk with my girlfriend, and I went, oh, I just can't believe it. I'm doing this, nothing's working. And I said, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to do 2 lives a week for a year. And that came out from my gut. And then I went, yeah, that feels about right. And that was it. And then and everything else dropped away. I stopped Alessandro's course. I kept doing the like the career a life coach lady, because we were working on some stuff. And I just said, I'm going to do that. I had no vision. I had nothing. There was no plan, no brand, no nothing. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Because I thought, well, maybe I could finance this for a year. I'm going to see where it goes. Makes sense. If after a year nothing happens, fine, really no issue. At least I would have given it a go. And it felt like a plan, a very basic, raw plan. And for some strange reason, the universe started to open up, and every person that I reached out to on LinkedIn, and I've tried reaching out to people on LinkedIn before, loads of times, trying to start little businesses or trying to get out of the corporate world. Nothing really happened. Immediately, I started connecting with people without an agenda and just going, okay, just saying hi and connecting, because I wanted to build my following up, because I thought, oh, okay, that's something I can take control of and do. And then I just start conversations, never with the idea to have a live or convince anyone to do it. And then, strangely enough, these connections started turning into conversations. And then I was like, oh, that's an interesting topic. Would you like to do a live? I'm doing like 2 of these a week. And it blew my mind how many people said yes, because I've struggled with rejection all of my life, really thinking, oh, people are going to reject, so they're going to reject me. I didn't really care. And I was just like, yeah, do you want to do a live? And people were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's strange. Why do you want to do a live with me? I had no background. I had no promises. I had no massive audience. And then people started giving me their time. And I was like, I honestly, it felt like the universe was opening up for me, and it was just going, yeah, here's a bunch of people. And I was like, okay. And then I thought, oh, that's going to run out. And then there was weeks where at the beginning of the week, I didn't have anyone, or the beginning of the middle of the week before, I didn't have any guests for the next week. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to fail here. What's this? And then miraculously 2 guests turned up. I just did the work. I connected with people. Again, not pushing. Never, ever have I pushed. If I see that, I can see that someone wants to talk about it, I was like, look, I do these lives. You want to come and have a conversation? And they do. But if not, that's okay. And then people just started showing up and showing up and showing up. And I was like, okay. And I've done that so I think I've done around 70 conversations so far. I've been doing it about 8 months.
8
And
months,
then,
okay. Wow.
and at the end of the year, I was like, oh, I think I need to go to 3, because I've started to see a lot of people being interested in what I was doing and how I was doing it. And I was like, okay. So now I've just switched to 3, and yeah.
And what are you getting? Because I don't know if you realized there is so many things to talk, and I think we would need more than 1 hour just to uncover everything that you are touching. But by the end, what I hear you talking about is just like when you really feel the calling and you listening to your gut. Even though you don't have the certainty, even though you don't have so much clarity, you can move forward and trust that something will come, and that's the magic. Even that's where the magic starts, because you don't expect anything. But then I'm very curious, and because you are as well a very curious person, then you already had 70 conversations, then you have the impression that it's not a question of knowledge, that with these people you knew more about their own subject, their own field, but it's more again this human connection And that's exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I was speaking to my girlfriend, and I still don't know why people are giving me their time. I really don't. But I realised that I think maybe it's fortunate timing, because I think in the world of AI and fake news, etc., and there's so much stuff being piled on us. Do this, do that. Expectations. People saying that they're outstanding and all these superstars and A types. And I think that people are getting sick of it being sold something. Yeah, you do this, buy this service or this course or whatever. And I think I came along at a point where AI is sort of getting everywhere and everything can be faked and no one really knows if it's genuine. And I just showed up having genuine conversations. Like I don't edit it. There's no editing. It's live streamed. If the doorbell goes, the doorbell goes. So I remember on one of the first lives, one of my guests, her cat walked across the front of the computer, and I was like, that's fine, because I think we live in a world where, because of COVID, people work remotely. People are happy. This is my lounge. There's no fancy studio here, and yeah, I'm sure the aesthetics would be a bit nicer, but I think people are okay to see genuine conversations. And so I didn't know. So I think it lands into very good timing in the world, because people don't trust AI and all this fake stuff. I think that also people wanted genuine conversations. I think attention is very short, and people have advised me to do like 20-minute podcasts and stuff. But I just lent into the fact that I like having conversations and I like asking questions. And I said, look, so I always said that these conversations should be about half an hour. The reality was, I realized soon on, most of my conversations, well, they've all gone an hour, I think. Like maybe one or two haven't, and that's only because of time constraints on the other person. But it does take time to think about stuff. We seem to want to be in, okay, we've got a quick answer. It's got to be here. And so rapid fire, I ask you a question, you've got to answer it. But I've never found that in myself. If you put me on the spot, I don't answer well. My brain shuts and gives like a very generic answer. But if you allow my thoughts to kind of find their way, then maybe I'll give you a better answer. And I found that with my guest, is that we don't always need to, get to the answer straight away. And if that's not okay for the people watching, and that I'm not their cup of tea, they can just switch off. There's a button that just says no, and that's absolutely fine. But I think
Yeah,
there
that,
is this place for genuine conversations, and I think people want to show up because they do want to talk about themselves, and that doesn't mean in a selfish way. And I think we have this idea that talking about ourselves is selfish or arrogant, but it doesn't have to be that way. Yes, I'm sure there's a lot of people there with their egos that want to be center stage, and that's a whole different conversation. But there's this whole pack of people within the middle that are not so shy that they're not prepared to put themselves on camera, not wanting to be center stage, but are very comfortable to come and have a conversation with me about a subject that they want to explore or they know and they're happy to share. And so I just think I've been very lucky in terms of the timing of this world, the intersection of knowing what my skills are, and that meeting a place where people are happy and feel comfortable and safe in my hands to be able to come and have these conversations with me. Sorry, that was a lot to sort of
yeah.
say, but yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. What you are highlighting is something that I experience as well with you, and maybe I can give you like the answer to all your question, because I was one of your guests, and I think this is exactly for me. Even though, as you highlighted it, we are in a world where we need to be efficient. We need to sell something. We need just to be straight to the point. And probably in order to, I mean, some people, they can make it good for them, but there is people like me that there is an invisibility pattern that I just was dealing for decades. And I can't just do that. No, I mean, of course I can do it, but it won't never be naturally. And what you offered is a space where by the end I could remove all this protection that by the end help me to make the experience of being creating my own visibility into a safe space, and then building my own. I mean, we need to practice, the visibility. It's not something that you can just do in front of a mirror. It's something that it's only in the relational field that we can experiment. And this is what I feel that you have a superpower. And you just highlighted it, that by the end, the conversation with these people, of course, they're so happy to share what they want to share that makes them unique, but you help them to make the first step, and then build their own language and articulate something that probably they will never be able to do it outside of just sending a post or publishing a post or whatever. It's really a big step to be in front of a camera. I mean, for me, that was the case. Then I don't know if you realize that your trajectory that started with just this I'm fed up, I'm frustrated, and I will just out of the blue listen to something, callings, an energy that is inside of me without knowing with certainty where it's going to bring me, that you can see that by the end it's serving a purpose for other people. It's
Yeah.
serving, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I never really. Sorry, did I interrupt you at the end?
no, 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 no.
Yeah, thank you. And again, it was never designed that way. But I think I'm ever so grateful when I come into contact with, obviously, like I said, we're becoming friends, and there's been a few people that absolutely really struggle to be on camera, and that's not. It is a big deal, right? It's not an easy thing, and you know.
And that's very frustrating because you feel that you have a message. You know what you described when you said when you were doing your YouTube and you tried so many times. That's where I am. I was at. I'm still at. And then when you offered me the live, for me, I was really in a turning point where I got even some awareness about who I could serve and even about my own story. And you helped me to being able to embody this new sense of identity, and even, let's say, being more aware of what made the stuckness that I felt up until now. And then you give me the space where I could explore even, myself with just curiosity, because that's something that I always felt like I would love to have this kind of conversation without having an agenda, without, and when you're struggling with the invisibility pattern, you think that you need to know everything. You're preparing your question, and you're trying to over prepare. That makes the visibility very painful because you're not authentic. and
Yeah.
and then I was really at a turning point where I felt something was released out of, discovering that I was this I mean, my intercultural story. And then you come and you give me the space where I can feel the space to explore it publicly. I mean, that's big, that's huge. And I'm so grateful because it was really impactful for me, I can tell you. And I'm sure that all the people that you are inviting, they are feeling the same. And yeah, that's just so. I'm so happy that you accepted, by the way, this invitation, and just, talking about you and being able to put you on the spotlight the way you do for other people.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful because, like I said at the beginning, I don't really consider myself to be very interesting. I think I have become more interesting because of what I've done, but I am, I, I honestly find all of my guests very interesting, and I, if there's any message to sort of send out to people, I think your example is a prime one, because I think, and I'm going to say women specifically, and that sounds maybe sexist or something, but I've seen a pattern. I don't know if It's just the people that I've kind of come into contact with. But I feel that the people that doubt themselves or feel that, not play it small, or feel that they need to, there's a struggle, it tends to be females, in my experience. But the reality for me is that every time that they come on camera, I've seen it time and time again. And that's not to say that men don't have the same thing. I've had men on here that have experienced the same thing, but for some reason I see the message more and more from females. But when they come out and they talk about their thing, or they shine, honestly, it's like this sunshine comes out, and and it seems odd to me. And I understand that you're saying that I'm doing something to help them and create a safe space, and I'm not. There's no trickery or anything like. It's just the genuine conversation. I'm very curious. I can't switch that part of me off. Sometimes I wish I could, but it if people are watching and they want to try it and they want to talk, I'm happy to do it, because it's so rewarding for me, and that message never gets old. Just the fact that if I can provide a safe space to have a conversation, and allow people just to believe in themselves, or step away from that old identity of playing it small, or just try it into something, and it might not be something that they want. All I can guarantee is that it's a safe space. There's it can be a bit scary for you, but I've got them. I like the conversations. There's fun. There's no gotcha moments. There's no buying. There's no selling. There's no performing. It's just a conversation. And we can have conversations easy when we get on with the other person. And I try to create that for other people. But honestly, if people are doubting themselves, reach out and have a conversation with me, because you would surprise yourself, and the amount of people that have been hesitant to say that, to actually be on camera, but do say yes, and then immediately after they've started to go, oh yeah, and I've started to see them on video, I've started to see them doing things, and I'm like, yes, and they start to believe in themselves. And it's just that it might seem like a little switch, but I appreciate it's a huge switch, and but it starts somewhere, and if I can provide that, and people continue to think that that's something that they want, I'm all in, because it's such a pleasure to be able to do it, to be honest.
Yeah, and that it's a real pleasure as well. I mean, we will conclude, because it's I mean, I feel really that this conversation can't end, but we have to come to an end. But I just would like just to summarize by the end what you are, what by the end you said, and what I heard is, in a world where visibility is something that seems very easy. The young people, they just taking video on Instagram, on every social media. It shows that it looks very easy, but it's not easy to make this visibility something authentic. And this is what you understood perfectly, that in this kind of conversation, for the people who are really now feeling that the world is just giving us the impression that nothing is real, and even ourselves, there is a place where with what you created a place where, first, the people like me that always were not so comfortable to be on camera, but felt their whole life that they had something to share, but they were only missing the place, the safe place, to being able to just talk. And it helps so much, because it helps as well, to build our mind and moving consciously. And there is as well the people that maybe are just simply searching for a conversation where there is absolutely no labels, where we can be ourselves. This is what you said, and that's so important in today's world, because I think that this is what everyone deep inside we want to be. But it takes courage. It takes courage to be vulnerable, and being able to just show a part of ourselves that probably we don't really like to talk about. But by the end, that's life, and that's what you are able to help us realize, that we don't need to be perfect to be human being. That's the opposite. Then yes, that's just I'm so blessed that I cross your way, and I am so curious. We will probably do a live in 3 months, because I am sure that in 3 months what you are creating, because it's really, you are a good example of following the energy of your calling and asking yourself the right question, and being the person that is self-reflective. I would like to take another appointment with you in about 3 months from now, and just see how you are, where it will end. I mean, end, it's not the end, but where it's going to direct you, if you agree.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I think it'd be interesting. I think you've actually caught me at a very transitional point because, like I've said many times, I'm self-funded. Through my divorce, I had some money come in, so I need to turn this into a business, and I'm exploring those ideas. I've got a mentor, just trying to see how I can make it into more of a business. So there will be a point at some stage in a few months where money will run out, and money changes the decisions that we make. But I'm trying to not avoid them, but just trying to lean into it. So yeah, be curious to see where we jump to in about 3 months and see where we are. I might be on here pleading people to donate money as like a charity. I don't know, but yeah, no, it'd be interesting. I'm very grateful that you asked me. I was very honoured that you thought about switching the microphone back to me, and yeah, I'm grateful for you, for all of your kind words and everything that you've reflected back to me. And I feel very honoured that we're friends and that we're building that friendship. So yeah, thank you very much, Fadila.
thank you. Then thank you everyone. If you were watching this video either live or not, thank you for being with us. And I'm so happy that for the first time we gave the spotlight to the host Colin. And thank you, and bye everyone. And bye Colin.
All right, thanks, Fadila. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.